I am making some cheesy no-knead bread for dinner tonight. A request from my son. All right, got my flour in my bowl, and then my tablespoon of salt and my yeast and my hot water. Now, this is instant yeast, so it will take less time to rise. If you're using regular yeast, it will take about the time in the recipe, which is 2 hours. But don't worry if you have instant yeast. All this mixed together. Okay, now, I'm not gonna really knead it, just bring all of the rest of the flour into the dough. Mine is not as sticky as some of them are. Okay, and then I'm going to take my cheese, I don't know, about a cup or so of cheese, and just kind of squish it all in there. You're not really kneading, you're just getting the cheese all worked in there. So when you knead, it gets the gluten moving. This is more like doing biscuits where you're just getting your cheese all incorporated. There are no eggs in this recipe, so if you're at one of the times when there are egg issues because they're too expensive, this is a great bread to have that doesn't have eggs. Okay, so now we're gonna let that rise and we're gonna come back and shape it. We are going to give you our Dining on a Dime cookbook ebook volume number 1 free at livingonadime.com. Click on our shop, click on our ebooks, click on Dining on a Dime volume 1, add it to your cart. When you go to checkout, use the coupon code DINING1 and you will get our ebook absolutely free with no obligation and no strings attached. Visit us at livingonadime.com. Okay, I have my dough here. Going to bring it down. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just knead this. Well, I guess it's no knead, isn't it? But some of my cheese is falling out. Okay, back into a nice little ball, and we're gonna let this rise. And we're gonna take our Dutch oven and put it in the oven and let it heat up to 400 degrees. Okay, I have my pan all heated up. And my bread has risen. Put it in there, and I'm gonna put the lid on and put it back in the oven. Okay, now I'm going to take the lid off. Oh, that looks very delicious. Okay, I'm gonna take the lid off and let it finish baking. Oh my goodness, that looks so delicious. Oh. Wow, okay. Now we're gonna lift this out of the pan. Okay, then we are going to let this cool before we cut it. Wow, that looks so good. Okay, I have it all done. Now it probably should cool a little bit longer, but we're gonna be eating here, so I'm just going to get it done. Oops. And I probably should have got the cutting board instead of cutting through, but oh, look at that.
Sure smells good.
Maybe I should get the cutting board. I take too many shortcuts, I know.
That's why it only takes you 5 minutes to cut.
That's true.
So who's laughing now?
Me. Dave's cheesy bread. This is made especially for Dave. He loves cheese. Oh yeah. Mr. Taste Tester Man.
Ooh, here.
No-Knead Cheese Bread. 5 ingredients, I guess.
Mmm.
Is it acceptable for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Yay. No-Knead bread. I have my yeast, which I store in my refrigerator or freezer. You can do either or. And then I have my water at 110 degrees to 120 degrees. Right there. If you don't have a digital thermometer, this is the best darn tootin' thing ever, I think. If you put your finger in here and it's hot, but you can't hold your finger in here, it's too hot. You should be able to hold your finger in there, but it's still warm, pretty warm, not just lightly warm, very warm. And that's the temperature that you need. All right, got my yeast and my water and my salt. Now, it is also a wives' tale that salt does not allow yeast to rise. It's not true, so I'll show you. Okay, if you want to make sure that your yeast is good, you can let it sit for 5 minutes and make sure it's going, but I know my yeast is new, so I'm going to go ahead and add my flour. The recipe is in the description below. You're going to stir until your dough comes together. Now, I don't really knead, but I do just try to make sure everything is all together. And it's going to be pretty sticky. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're gonna let this rise for 2 hours. If your house is cold in the winter, you can turn your oven on for 1 minute, let it heat up, turn your oven off, and let it rise in a warm oven. Quiet on the set. Are you done? All right, my bread has been rising. So sprinkling just a little bit of flour on top. Going to punch it down. Oh, it hasn't really risen very much. Okay. Now I'm dividing the dough half, just like so, and then just a little bit of flour, and you just pull it under. Sometimes it's easier to do it with this. Okay, put one on. There's the the second one. Okay. And now we're gonna let that rise. There. So I am cutting. Just a little X on top. Just like so. Okay, now, if you want, you can put some melted butter on here. I am going to just leave it like this. And going to place 1 cup of water in the oven with this because the steam helps the bread be chewy and have a crispy crust.
Bread.
Okay, no-knead bread. All right, my son is wondering, so. Oh,
wow.
Does that look delicious?
That does.
Are you gonna be my taste tester
I think I am.
instead of Dad?
I love homemade bread.
You love homemade bread?
Might be my favorite recipe in the book.
The favorite recipe, huh? Okay, he's gonna give it a try. Look at that fluffy goodness. Steaming.
Oh, that's really good.
10 out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
100 out of a 10.
I think 100 out of 10, yeah.
Oh, it's 100 out of a 10.
It's got a really nice crust, and it's like super like,
soft on the inside,
yeah, soft on the inside.
crusty on the outside. No-knead bread. Super easy. Here's the directions for the no-knead bread in the Dutch oven. You're gonna put your no-knead bread on a piece of parchment paper and let it start rising. Then you're gonna take your Dutch oven, put it in a cold oven, and turn it on to 450 degrees and let it all warm up. All right, my oven is 450 degrees. And I have my dough risen right there. And now we're going to put it, parchment paper and all, back in the oven and let it bake. After half an hour, take your bread out. Carefully put it back in. Oops, what am I doing? With the lid off so it can get brown. I was asked to cut the bread. What does that thickest? Does it look
Looks good.
delicious? All right, who's gonna be the taste tester?
Me.
You?
Yep.
Oops, did does that look delicious or what? Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot to take a picture. Hold on, can I put it back
Put it
together?
back together.
Not gonna quite work. Okay,
If you take it from the right angle, it might.
it's all right.
Oh, okay.
In case you were wondering, yes, this is 2 different loaves of bread. I accidentally forgot to film finished of the second loaf of bread. So I had to remake it, film it again, and this is the 3rd loaf of bread. Yes, I made 4 loaves of bread total for this video. They were all gone within an hour. Okay, here we go. Now the moment of truth is happening. You see the moment of truth.
Butter makes everything better.
It does. Okay, now taste test. Let us see. Only one acceptable answer. Is it delicious?
Ooh, that's really good.
Is it bread perfection?
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
It's got a very nice crunch to it.
But soft on the inside.
Yeah, it's very, very soft.
Crunchy on the outside, but soft on the inside. Okay, now here it is where I didn't make it into 2 loaves, just 1 loaf. So I've got 1 big loaf, and I'm going to show you what it does with an egg wash. I say wash the proper way, of course. But I'm going to show you what it looks like with an egg wash instead of wash. I'll show you how it turns out with that. So it's just egg with a little bit of water. Put it on there. Then make that into scrambled eggs. Or put it in your cake mix. Okay, so what's happening?
Don't think you made enough bread.
Where did it all go?
I don't know.
Been like 10
vanished.
minutes. I am making sourdough starter. I have my yeast. And my sugar. And my warm water. This is the best invention ever made. I love my thermometer. It just has made bread baking so much easier. Okay, combining everything in a bowl here. And then I have my flour. All right, now we're gonna mix all this together. Cover it with plastic wrap, leaving a little hole in the top so that it can have air. And then we're going to let this ferment. Okay, well, gotta love plastic wrap, huh? Okay, I am making my sourdough bread. Now, I make my sourdough bread with yeast. I know full good and well that's not traditional sourdough bread, but I don't want to wait 6 to 12 hours for my sourdough to rise. So I add the yeast. This way I still have the sourdough flavor, but I have the fast rising time regular bread, okay? So I've got my sugar in there and my yeast and hot water. I'm gonna make sure my yeast activates here. Now, this yeast is from 2023 and it is now 2025, so it is 18 months past the date for this, almost 19 months. So it's brand new though, and usually if your yeast is expired and it's not open, you can use it. But just in case, I'm gonna wait for my yeast to get all bubbly here and make sure my yeast is working. Okay, you can see here my yeast poofed a little bit, but not a ton. So I just made another batch of yeast just to make sure my yeast is working. So I'm gonna pour that in there. Yes, it's an extra half cup of water, but that's all right. It's not gonna hurt anything because I needed water and milk. So I just put the water in and I'm adding dry milk. Yes, I know this is not following the directions exactly, but I needed to use up this dry milk. So I am going to go ahead and put that in, and then my salt. Got that in. And the correct way to do this is to take your milk, sugar, salt, and butter, margarine, and your water, and put it all together and microwave it if you want. But I just didn't feel like doing it that way because you kind of get into a groove of making bread your own way. And so follow directions, it's fine, but I probably should, since this is a teaching video. I know I'm gonna have people yelling at me because they always do. But, but melting my butter real quick here. Got my butter melted. Then I have my sourdough starter. Alright. Got my sourdough starter. Give it that sourdough flavor everyone loves. And now for my flour. All right, I'm gonna start off with 4.5 cups of flour. And then I'm gonna add, up to around 6 cups, give or take. And then that will bring me to a stiff dough. Wow, I got pretty close. Now, I like kneading my bread in my bowl. You don't have to, you can do it on the counter if you want. I just find it saves cleanup. I just get it all started. Sometimes I'll move from the bowl to the counter, but even then it's usually not as much cleanup. Okay. Now, I'm sure you will find in the comments lots of nasty comments about how I don't make the sourdough bread correctly and it's not authentic and all that. Listen, if you want to go ahead and not use yeast and let your sourdough bread rise for 6 to 12 hours, you go right ahead. I don't care. I just ain't got time for that. And I don't really want to take time for that. But if it was an emergency situation and I didn't have yeast, I would be more than able to make bread. That is about a perfect bread of dough. Batch of dough there. Wow. So that's right about 5 cups of flour. Now, some flours are drier than other flours, so you'll need more or less flour. Just kind of depends. Also, the humidity in the air makes a difference. Not like it does for candy making, but it does for bread a little bit, not a ton. And then I just knead. I had a few people asking me how to knead bread. Okay, got your loaf there. Push down, bring it together, turn it over, down, flip and push, flip and push. Okay, so then if it's sticking to here, add a little bit more flour. I'm just adding a tiny bit because it's not sticking at all, hardly, just to show you. Push down. Sometimes I do 2 pushes before I turn it, and then I turn it, and that's how you do it. You just push down, and turn. Push down, use the palms of your hand, push down, and turn. Push down, turn, push down and turn. Push down and turn. All right, so now, just so I don't dirty another bowl, I spray my bowl, plop in my dough, and now we're gonna let this rise for an hour. And I turn my oven on for about 5 minutes to get it warm, just around 100 degrees or so, and then I put my bread in there so it has a warm place to rise in the winter in Wyoming where it's cold.
Mom, are you meaning to be like still recording?
Oh no. Why are you recording me? All right, I have my sourdough bread has risen. And now I'm going to make it into 3 different kinds of bread. Okay, so punch it down and get it about the same. So a third there and a third there. Okay. So I'm gonna put just a little bit more on this one. Okay, so the first one we're gonna do is plain. So we just punch it down, roll it under, so it has a smooth top like that. And there is the plain one. The next one I'm gonna do is, oops, where'd it go? Oh dear, I did the wrong one. Okay. Next one we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this one out and we're gonna make cinnamon bread. Would anyone in my family like cinnamon bread? Perhaps. Perhaps, maybe. Okay. And then take your butter or margarine and spread it on here. All right, and we got our cinnamon and sugar. Then we're going to roll this up. Now I've never rolled it this way, so I don't know what's going to happen. Let's just give it a try and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to roll it up. Then I'm going to turn it in to a little ball also. Oops, maybe. Okay, so now we're going to fold that all on itself and try that one. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so just so you know, I have my baking sheet here. So here's one cinnamon and here's the regular. And then my son has been begging me for cheese bread. The wonderful mother that I am, I'm going to mix in some cheese. Just knead it into the dough for him. And I'm kind of picking up the dough that comes out on the counter as I mix it in, knead it in. This distributes the cheese all evenly. Hopefully. And Now, I'm going to form that into a nice little loaf. All right, now, I have my 3 loaves, and we're gonna let these rise for an hour. Okay, I have them risen, and now they're going into the oven at 400 degrees. Okay, my sourdough bread is done. All right, just took some butter and rubbed it all over the top. Oh, yum. That looks delicious. I'm gonna let that cool and then we'll cut it. Okay, there are my sourdough breads. The cinnamon. Whoa, that looks yummy. Okay. Here is the cheesy. Ooh, ah. And here is the regular. Ooh, ah. Okay, do you want to taste test sourdough to see if you like homemade sourdough better than store-bought sourdough?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
So I was telling Mom the other day that I don't like any store-bought sourdough, so we'll see.
He does not. Okay. Here is homemade cinnamon sourdough bread. What does thou thinkest?
That's pretty good, actually.
Is it darn tootin' good though?
Pretty darn tootin' good.
Ah, okay, do you want to try regular now?
Sure.
Now we have regular. Let's see if it's darn tootin' good or just good.
Mmm. It's good too. It's really darn tootin' good. From our Dining on a Dime cookbook where you can eat better and spend less.
Volume 2 or something. Okay, now try the cheesy. That's not the cheesy.
Oh. It's so good, I
Just keep going.
That's really good. Is there garlic in there too?
No.
Oh.
I just did cheesy, not cheesy garlic, just cheesy.
Well, that's really good too.
You're just so used to us having garlic cheesy.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
pass the test.
Yeah, it's
Yay.
not, like I always remember the store-bought stuff being kind of like sour or like bitter, you know?
Yay!
The same one as me?
Oh, an 11 out of
It's
10.
a
Side piece. Look at that.
I'm making my no-knead bread, but I don't have an oven. I am going to make this in the toaster oven. And this is my fresh yeast. Now, I just store this in the freezer or the refrigerator, whichever you want, but it makes it last longer if it's in the fridge or freezer. So I've got my yeast and my water in here. You can add your salt too if you want. I'm just doing these two first. My water is about 110 degrees. I just use one of these digital thermometers. Oops, it's 120 degrees. I hope that's not too hot. So, since it's a little bit on the warm side, I'm gonna make sure that my yeast starts poofing first and that I didn't kill it by getting my water too hot. I don't think I did, but let me just wait for a minute and let's see if it gets poofy here. This video is brought to you by our Dining on a Dime cookbooks. Our Valentine's Day sale is happening right now, 35% off. Our cookbooks that give you easy recipes your family will love with cheap ingredients that you probably already have on hand, and you can get in and out of the kitchen quick. Most of the time I don't spend more than 20 minutes cooking dinner. Go check out our Valentine's sale right now at livingonadime.com. The link is in the description below. I killed my yeast. My son is laughing at me in the background. Okay, my water was too hot and I threw it in there. So let's try this one. I'm gonna put my yeast in here. And I'm just gonna add an extra half a cup of water, and then I'll just add a little bit extra flour. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so can you see how this one is starting to bubble? That means my yeast is, oh, and now this one's starting. So maybe I just didn't give it enough. Wow, that's just not really foaming. Okay. So let me put in, although this is instant yeast, oops, I put it in the wrong bowl. And my boys like sweet homemade bread. So I'm going to add my sugar in there. And then my salt. All right, there we go. I'm going to let this rise until double, about 2 hours. Then we'll come back and put it in our pan. Okay, I forgot this is instant yeast, so it rises faster than regular yeast. So, had it all risen here. I'm going to bring it down. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put half in here. Half in here. Okay, now we're gonna let this rise just a few minutes while my toaster oven is preheating, and then we'll come back and bake it. Okay, my loaves are about 3/4 risen, so I'm going to go put them in my toaster oven. Oh no, and now my kid is cooking. We have a problem. I really want it at 350. How do I change it to 350? Do you know? Well, I tried and it won't go anywhere. It needs to be on bake. Oh, you're so smart. That's why you get the big bucks. Okay, I took my bread out just a minute to let it finish preheating so the bottom doesn't burn my bread. Okay, now I moved my shelf up one, and now we're gonna bake. So let's see how this works. Now, this is just an optional setup, but I put a probe for my meat thermometer in there, and I'm gonna see if my bread is 200 degrees in the center. When it hits 200 degrees, then you know your bread is done. Okay, still got, it might be done now, but I'm gonna give it another 9 or 10 more degrees. Okay, my bread is done. Woohoo! That's one of the best tricks I've ever learned for baking bread. Ooh, that does look good. Yay. Yum aroma. Okay, now let this cool for, I don't know, 5 minutes and then we'll turn it out. Okay, got them out. And I'm doing a bunch of cooking videos today, so I'm running out of space, but I'm gonna let these cool and we'll have one of the guys taste test it. Okay, we're cutting into the bread. This is homemade bread in a toaster oven.
Ooh,
What do you think?
Toaster oven bread, huh?
It actually looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, wow. Toaster
Even-
oven recipes.
Even if I do say so myself. Okay,
I love toaster ovens.
all right, hold on.
Actually, why even get a regular oven if we can use the toaster oven? It takes up less space.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Can we just put a cabinet there?
Shall I try it?
I guess. I'm a little afraid. I kind of messed it up.
Mmm.
Is it too yeasty?
Mm-mm. Well, I mean, it's not too poofy. It's perfectly. The texture is amazing.
This is our no-knead, 4-ingredient no-knead bread, but I add a 5th ingredient. I put in some sugar.
Maybe you should, whatever yeasty thing you did that was a mistake, maybe you should add that to the recipe because it's really fluffy.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have another taste tester back here that doesn't, oh, he will be on camera. Okay, what's your, is it a
Oh,
10 out of 10?
yeah, it's an 11 out of 10.
The same one as me?
Oh, an
See,
11 out of
compare
10.
it.
It's a side piece. Look at that.
Oh, 11 out of 10, toaster oven bread.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, we are making a classic French bread recipe in our Dining on a Dime cookbook, volume 1 on page 88. You're going to take 1 cup of really warm water. I like to use this digital thermometer to make sure that my temperature is correct. But if you don't have a digital thermometer, put your finger in and it should be really hot, but not so hot that you can't keep your finger in it. All right. Then we're going to add our yeast. And our sugar. And we're going to let our yeast get all nice and poofy. Let that sit for about 5 minutes. And that is what it looks like when it starts to grow. Can you see the yeast blooming there? You can just see them popping up all over the place. All right, it's nice and frothy. I'm going to add my oil and my salt. Stir that together. And then we're going to add our flour. Now I start just shy of 3 cups, so that's like 2 3/4 cups, just to get it mixed in. You want to make sure you start with less before you add more. Even then, I probably should have done 2.5, because look how dry that is. That's fine, no biggie. Okay, I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit. And now we're just gonna add it until we have a smooth dough, and add the flour until we need it, and our dough is nice and smooth. Now, I live in a drier climate here in Wyoming, so I need less flour, but if you live in a humid climate, it does affect how much flour you need because there's more moisture in the air and it attracts that moisture. So here in Wyoming, it looks like I'm only gonna need 3 cups. This is the first time I have made this recipe in our new house in Wyoming. Now, the recipe says to knead 10 minutes, but honestly, I never need that long. I really don't. I don't have the hand strength, and I don't have a KitchenAid mixer. So if you have a KitchenAid mixer and want to put it in your KitchenAid mixer, go ahead. See how it's just sticking just a little bit. Now I also knead in my bowl to just save dirtying the table so much. There, that's getting nice and smooth. Then I also let it rise in the bowl. Just spray it with some cooking spray on both sides. And let it rise about an hour to an hour and a half until it's doubled. All right, it's an hour later and it's nice and poofy. Now, if you're making this in the winter, you can turn your oven on for about 3 to 4 minutes to preheat and just get it so it's about 100, 120 degrees in your oven. And then you can leave your oven light on and it will help it rise. Now you're going to divide it in two, and then you're going to form it in loaves. Now, first I'm going to take my baking tray, sprinkle a little cornmeal on here. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. That way your bread doesn't stick. Now, I just get a little bit of flour, roll it into a loaf, get it nice and even. Okay, that looks about good. I'm going to set it on our tray. Do that again. There we go. Then we're going to take a sharp knife, cut some slits across the top, and then we're going to let this rise about an hour until it's double in size. As I was putting everything up, I realized I forgot my egg wash. There's your egg and your milk. Sorry. And just brush this on top. Now, if you have leftover egg wash, just add a few more eggs and you can have scrambled eggs. Or you can make yourself some French toast with this French bread. Don't let anything go to waste. All right, now we're gonna let it rise. That is delicious. Okay, we are making French toast. Now, I have my 1 tablespoon of baking grease that I'm going to melt on my griddle. I have my milk and sugar and cinnamon. Egg, and just a bit of salt. All right, we're gonna get this all mixed up. I should have mixed the eggs first. If it wasn't first thing in the morning and I haven't had my tea yet, I would have, but that's me. Okay, get my stuff all mixed up here. Okay, this is really dumb. Okay, I am not awake yet. I have not had my morning cup of tea. I am not a morning person. I do not wake up well in the morning. You can ask my husband and children. Okay, now my bacon grease is melting on my griddle, which I use when I make big batches when the family's here. Alright, and I'm just gonna hold this little piece to the side. And then I have my bread, which was not stale yet, so I set it out to get a little dry so it wasn't quite so soft. And just dip it in there. And we're gonna put it on the griddle and fry it. And my family is being so quiet back there. Wow. Okay. There we go. Recipes in our Dining on a Dime Cookbook, Volume 1. You can get the link in the description below. Now we're going to let this cook, and then we will flip it. Oops. And I just realized I forgot my vanilla, but it'll be fine. Okay, here we go. Gonna flip them. There we go. Oh, yum. We're gonna let them cook on the other side. Okay, now we have our French toast and it is all done. Doesn't that look delicious? Whoops. There we go.
What kind of thumbnail are you wanting?
just eat 2 croutons by themselves, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Because they're so delicious.
They're
From our
good.
Dining on a Dime Cookbook, Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have no idea why I just put it in the bowl, because normally I don't do that. Normally I just put it on the pan. Make sure they're crouton-sized pieces, like so. Okay, you take your oil. Just sprinkle your oil all over. And then your garlic.
That is a lot of garlic.
That's why you guys like it.
Probably.
And then your parsley. And then I'm doing some big salt because I'm trying to get rid of the salt. There. And seasoned salt from our Dining on a Dime cookbook. And then just get it all mixed together. Then, going to put it in the oven. With no rack. Oops. Details, details. And then we're going to put it in the oven. Okay, Jack, give us your 2 cents of what you think it tastes like. Ooh, is it too hot?
They're hot.
Still too hot.
Yeah.
Hold on. Delicious as usual. Jack's
Yep.
favorite croutons. Yum-a-rummo.
Already had 4 of them.